Okay, hi everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome to the NCDS DataBytes Lunchtime webinar series. Today we are lucky to have Dr. Renata Rawlings-Goss. She is a data strategic coach and author of the upcoming book, Data Careers, Data Programs, and Data Talent by Springer Press. She is also the executive director of the South Big Data Regional Innovation Hub, which is one of only 4 big data innovation hubs for the nation, serving 16 states in data science partnerships between industry, academia, and government. She's also the director of industry partnerships for the Institute of Data Engineering and Science at the Georgia Institute of Technology. Renata previously worked with the White House Office of Science and Technology Policy under President Obama to create the National Data Science Organizers. She co-led the writing team for the Federal Big Data Strategic Plan, including 19 federal agencies, and was awarded a AAAS Big Data Science and Technology Policy Fellowship with the National Science Foundation in the Directorate of Computer and Information Science and Engineering. Renata lives in Atlanta, Georgia, and received her training in physics, biophysics, and computational genomics from Florida A&M University, the University of Michigan, and the University of Pennsylvania. Her research interests include data-driven analysis of African and African American genetic expression as it relates to drug metabolism, as well as professional interests in data science education and workforce development in all communities. Renata's talk today, which is about building data science degree programs from a national perspective, will last about 35 to 45 minutes. There will be time for question and answer at the end. As the presentation goes on and toward the end, please feel free to type your questions in the chat box. We'll hold them till the end, and then Renata will address them, and we'll have a little conversation at the end. So thank you all for being here, and welcome, Renata.
Thank you. Thank you, Stephanie, for the great introduction. So hello to everyone that's watching virtually. Today, we're going to talk about data science in the US, the ecosystem around building degrees in data science, and the workforce training. So there's no surprise that data science actually has a huge talent shortage. This is a report that was from 2017 that was looking at the forecasted number of jobs. We've actually exceeded this number for 2018, but the gap in the people who are trained in data and analytics skills for a whole host of different career choices. So one of the things that they put out was that there's several industries that are looking to hire the most data talent, finance and IT being the top. So this year, over 50% of the jobs are in finance or IT, such as Facebook or Google or data tech-driven. Then healthcare, manufacturing, information, retail. But a lot of the people that are needed, you can see the tiny boxes on the end are the number of data scientists, true scientists. But then there's a huge capacity for those who are data enabled, data literate, being able to have managers that know things about data. So really this idea of data literacy is big and is part of the push around degree programs, as well as depth and breadth of knowledge to really train the next generation of scientists and data scientists in these areas. So these were the different just from this business report, we're going to do from a more academic standpoint later, that they were looking for. So these were their recommendations from this Business Higher Education Forum. What higher education can do is 5 through 8. Try to create hubs, not silos. Champion for data literacy for all. Steps up in professional ties. And designing for inclusion. And those have actually been implemented by some programs across the country, and we'll talk about some of them that are doing that. So one, the idea of creating hubs, not silos. So this is a slide from David Culler at UC Berkeley, where they have a class that is now looking at foundations of data science, which is an introductory course that is offered to all of its students, and even at freshman level. And they have a huge subscription to this course. Over 1,200 students enroll each semester, and they've built out connector courses. So this ecosystem of data science plus demographics and immigration, plus smart cities, plus social networks, plus data science in the mind, or cognitive neuroscience, genomics, social data, math and stats and probability. And these are taught as joint programs with those different departments to really expand this idea of a hub and creating it in this fashion. So this is one example of this. Another is the idea of building out connector degrees. So this is something the University of Illinois has been doing, is building out first computer science plus different degrees. And now with the idea of trying to, they've expanded the computer science plus X, the CS plus X, to freshman, sophomore, junior, senior level. And now data science plus X as well is being thought about in this model. And these are full degrees where the students would actually have both integrated as part of their coursework. So these are some others that they were looking at, and you can see that the branches get wide because CS, data science, analytics can touch any industry. I give the analogy that it used to be when you weren't sure what industry you're interested in, you could become a lawyer, where you could be an entertainment lawyer or a corporate lawyer, or if you are interested in any music, you could be a music lawyer. Now that same thing is true for data and analytics, and those bridges are what draw in a lot of the students for degrees programs. This is a master's program that's being offered at Georgia Tech, and this is aimed at returning professionals. So this idea of upskilling are actually a part of the workforce would be able to gain these skills for their job. One of the things that is interesting about this program is that it's actually offered at a third or a fourth of the price of the on-campus masters with the same requirements. So it allows it for it to be something that employers can offer as a benefit for under $10K to their employees. And lastly, there's things to put. Designing for inclusion was the last point that was made by the report. And this is actually a series that I ran last year. This started at the end of 2017 and went through 2018 for looking at data science in different types of degree programs. So Research One, but also liberal arts colleges, community colleges, at the bachelor's level, also doing degrees that were from tribal colleges or historically Black or Hispanic universities, and how those might be different in setting up programs, not in their fundamental content, but just in the structure of those different organizations. So we had a conference, so it had about 60 faculty participants from schools that were interested in starting programs and we went through challenges for 2 days and opportunities, as well as writing a consensus report that was Keeping Data Science Broad, which was authored by 16 of these faculty and myself, so that we can look at what are the steps for the top asks for the future, concrete next steps. So that report, Keeping Data Science Broad, is published. It's on the website actually of the South Big Data Hub, but it fed into the thinking of a consensus report for the National Academy of Science on data science for undergraduates, and really envisioning what that data science degree and what pieces really needs to be included. And so they spent 2 years talking to hundreds of faculty, and this report is now published in 2019, and it includes some of the input from the Keeping Data Science Broad, as well as a whole host of other institutions, to be able to look at what are the recommendations for setting up a degree program and the things that could be included at the undergraduate level. So these are the 10 recommendations that came out. And they are really based on the collective experience of those who have. And recommendation 1 is faculty development. So embracing the need for more faculty equipped to teach it. Varied pathways, so really involving what educational pathways there are. Because as we said, data science can be applied to so many different areas of science and of industry that it's hard to pack all of that into a program. So having different ways to prepare students for these different kinds of roles. Committing to data literacy for all undergraduates, and data ethics as they become involved in more and more sectors. And you do need that ethical consideration, as things like human rights and government is now very welcoming to data science. And so those are areas where we want to think about those things as we're preparing students. Having a code of ethics to really reinforce that. Building bridges between 2-year and 4-year institutions, as a lot of students, the number of students that are needed aren't actually going to be able to come only from 4-year institutions. We want to have pipelines to bring in students and transfer. Program diversity, attracting diverse students. The data science has an opportunity to actually go to the students that you want to see. So because of these connector type courses, you could see how it would be very different if a data science program was set up in, a traditional computer science department or a math department or a statistics department, whereas if the data science was taught in biology or in communications and the different population of students you might reach. Constant evolution as the field is evolving and we're still emerging. A lot of the flexibility has to be maintained in these programs in order to move courses, change materials, because that can be hard if it gets locked in early on. And continuing education support for faculty. Kind of how do we relieve the burden of that, as well as giving the opportunity to do it for faculty who are already busy. And constructive evaluation, setting up process to evaluate the program and what types of data scientists you're actually trying to produce as part of that program. So as one of the recommendations, this is something that I feel and started to look at personally, is a data science education network. There's a real opportunity to build a cross community of practice and an opportunity for educational training and workforce development to expand the number of institutions that can get into data science, and to be a clearinghouse for some of the best practices and resources around teaching in different disciplines. So one thing that early on before I left DC, I had started tracking data science programs as they emerged across the country. So this is 4 years into that tracking, and looking now, the expansion has been really great to see. So in the US, this is just the US alone, there's 486 data science programs, and that includes master's, certificate programs, associates, and doctoral programs. And as you can see, it's spread across the US, but it's not evenly spread. So there's a lot of concentration. I think there's currently in California, there's 39 in New York, and also 31 in California of different distinct programs. And what I've seen is that a lot of these programs are master's programs by and large, and certificate programs next. And those might make sense in the sense that they don't require quite as much galvanization as putting in a new bachelor or doctoral program so that you could see them being set up easier. Not that they're easy, but set up sooner. And so the majority, actually, when I was looking at what departments they're housed in, are joint with business schools. And for data science, there's a very strong industry push. And so this makes a lot of sense, but it's not the original thing you may think. So the master's programs or others, if they were in the business school, they count as business. But even if they were joint with the business school, they count twice. So if they were joint with mathematics and business, they would count towards mathematics and business. So as you can see at the bottom of that chart is data science. So a lot of the programs are not called data science programs, even if they are teaching data science or analytics curriculum. And for that reason, it makes it difficult for students as well as other programs to find each other, to create this networks that they can share best practices, or for students to know what is being taught in these different courses. So as a pipeline, there is a data science leadership summit. So aside from the Keeping Data Science Broad, there's also where there was a group of leaders of different data science programs. And one of the things that came out of it was just looking at a few early case studies of those who have been around long enough to have started to graduate students. So these are just two examples. There are others, but University of San Francisco was one of the very earliest, starting in 2012, 2013 with their undergraduate data science program. In 2017, they graduated 15 students. And about 50% went to grad school, 50% went to industry with internships and jobs. And the same thing, University of Rochester, they have a cohort formally declared in 2016, graduated in 2018, 20 graduate students. And they found that they had also about 50% that went to graduate school, 50% mostly went to industry, but that they attracted a lot of double majors. More than 50% of their students across all their classes were double majored in business or economics or other double majors, but those were their top two, which also shows to that business interest, that economic interest. So thinking that through, as Stephanie said, I'm also the executive director of the South Big Data Innovation Hub, which this is one of 4 federally funded innovation hubs for big data and data science. And our goal really is to increase the capacity for data science workforce, innovation, and partnerships. So, and this is across sectors to advance science, to address societal challenges, and to spur economic development in our region. So I focus on education and workforce, but we also foster multi-sector projects, large projects that are called spokes that address societal issues in the South through analytics and partnerships with academia and industry and government. So we have some partnered with Google Earth or partnered with IBM Watson and different universities. And then we do outreach and do infrastructure, so data sharing and infrastructure as part of the different hubs, the South hubs specifically. And one program, after thinking through some of these things in education, was the Data Up program, which was launched last year, and where faculty teams apply from different schools, and they would apply to the Data Up program. And what we offer is training. We do a workshop at their institution for 2 days, where it's training of their choice in R or Python or any kind of databases, or even it can be specific geospatial data or different types of, we have different types of workshops. All of the faculty teams come to Georgia Tech, and we train them on how to teach their own data science boot camps or to incorporate it into their classes as they would wish. And then in 2019, now they're deciding, they have to tell us what they're going to do, teach a course or incorporate it into current courses. So these were the awardees for 2018. So Florida A&M, the University of Puerto Rico, Frederick Community College in Maryland, Spelman College in Atlanta, Johnson C. Smith, which is and the University of Virgin Islands, Old Dominion, and Texas A&M Kingsville. And so they actually now have done quite a bit with expanding data science in their particular universities. So we're looking for a collective impact of increasing the capacity. So we've made Data Up an annual program, and it'll be reapplied in 2020, and have a program that we run for 4 years, which is called PEPI-G, which is empowering partnerships with industry and government. So this is also aimed originally at early career faculty, and now it's expanded to research scientists, students, grad students, and late stage undergraduate students, so juniors and seniors, where we have them be able to do short-term fellowships with industry. For faculty, this means to establish a research and relationship with an industry partner so that you can then see what it would be to be inside their team, embedded in their team for 10 weeks, and better establish that relationship. Because when you are looking at creating these connections, you have to think about, this is also a professional development experience for the faculty, but also something in research universities where a lot of, actually 100% of the companies have decided to continue independently funding their faculty member or engaging with them in research or around students. So it's a way to not only increase the research capacity of faculty, but also affect more students as they come. So right now, PEPI is open for the South Hub, and we have different partners every year. This year is the Department of Homeland Security. So faculty or students would be working for 10 weeks at DHS on these two issues of eliminating human trafficking, and that's a lot of social media analytics, people that do text mining, or even visual analytics, video analytics, with that type of experience would be eligible to apply, and improving disaster response through high-speed, real-time decision-making. So this is Internet of Things, folks with expertise in sensors. And these fellowships have a profound impact because it not only connects faculty to a different realm of data science, but it shows them as it highlights their expertise to a new set of government agencies that can fund research. So the deadline was May 1st, which is today, but we are extending it to May 6th if anyone is interested. And even if you can't do this summer, it's still good to apply because we do different partners every year. So if you were interested, we still send your CV and resumes to the partners. So if they really like what your expertise is, they can reach out and you can form those relationships as well. So lastly, I want to give my information in case anyone's interested in developing degrees. She said at the beginning, a strategic coach. So I do help programs as well as those get connected with how to get started with data science or speaking or coaching. So if you are, and we have resources at the South Big Data Hub, which will help all of these reports, the Keeping Data Science Broad report, as well as the PEPI-G, as well as the Data Up programs. So I would encourage you to follow us at South Big Data Hub, which Stephanie has actually been really, really active and actively involved, and we appreciate her for sure. And to follow the blog as well as our YouTube channel. So thank you. So I don't know if now we have time for questions.
Yeah, we do. So I've encouraged folks to type their questions in the chat window if they have any. They can also, Zoom will allow them if they want to raise their hand, I can allow them to talk and they can just, speak instead of typing. So that's an option. I'll start with a question though. I'm just curious from listening to that sort of overview of where we are now. I'm wondering if you can see into the future and like, what do you think is going to happen with data science degree programs? Like, how do you think it's all going to evolve?
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of evolution. There's questions about where data science fits into a university. So I think we'll see a lot of different models. One model doesn't fit all, which also means that the degree model might not fit all universities. So some are starting data science degree programs. Some are evolving current degree programs. But then also there's the idea of centers and institutes that cross a lot of different departments that aren't housed by one department, because the question is, when something is so broad, where is the natural home for it? Does it need to be housed in conjunction with a computer science department or statistics department? That has its benefits. They're more established departments. They know what they are, they have their place in the university set out. Does it need to be its own department? Which then the question is, how is that distinguished from the others? Where do you get the faculty from? Are they totally new hires? Aren't disconnected? There's the institute model where it's saying nobody owns it. It's a separate institute that's across all of the different colleges or schools or departments on campus. And we just pull data science expertise, host webinars, do education, try to empower other degrees. And that has a strong benefit as well. But it doesn't carry with it the weight of a degree program where you have specific students. Also, there are online different options where people have started these massively online courses. Those are good for learning particular topics, but some are trying to string it together into being a more coherent pathway to a product. So that's also an option that's happening. Also, data science minors, I've seen that as well, where it's just propagated as a minor that can be added on to a number of different degrees as a certificate or a minor in data science. And free online courses. So all of those things, it's an ecosystem. I think all of those things have their pros and they also have their cons. And together they create kind of a fabric of how do you deal with the data literacy? How do you deal with where faculty are and ownership at different departments? What is the institutional culture? Who is the champion of data science? The biggest predictor I've seen of where data science ends up in a university is the faculty member's department who starts the champion campaign. So that's another thing about where that goes. Lastly, I'd say for me, if you're going to look into the future, I really strongly feel I have a metaphor for data science that's closer to a metaphor for healthcare. I consider when people say, I want to be a data scientist, I hear it like, I want to be a doctor. And I think, great, but what kind of doctor do you want to be? Do you want to be a cardiologist or a podiatrist? It's going to make a big difference to your salary and to your years of training that you need. And the same thing is true with data scientists and data programs. So with that metaphor extended, I feel like a residency program is something that I would like to see done, where there is an option. You do have, a foundational degree in biology or computer science in this case, but you go to something like medical school where you do, or not medical school, but you do a residency where you can try out different specialties, and you need different skills for those specialties. You need different tools for those specialties and different strengths for those specialties. And that, I think, is missing. A lot of graduates don't come out knowing really what it's like. What's the difference to work for a big, huge company as opposed to a startup? What are the tasks different if you're a data engineer as opposed to a data scientist or a data analyst or a computational X? they don't have that kind of insight right off a lot of times. And so that's where I end up coaching people with career, is to say, okay, well, here's what you may actually be doing. Do you like that type of thing? As opposed to just the title alone. I think that type of career services, getting involved, as well as a residency program, is where I would see it going, or would like to see it go. Mm-hmm.
Very cool. Yeah, I like the ecosystem idea and the doctor one too. I feel like I've been a part of or watched a lot of industry panels at this point, and they're all kind of saying that, like, we would love for them to have a little more experience, like actually, being in it and trying some things. So, so we did get a couple of questions. They're in the chat, but I'll just say them out loud in case anybody's like not monitoring the chat. So we have one: how does this effort apply to community colleges specifically? Are associate degrees in data science a thing yet?
Yes. So associate degrees in data science are a thing. And there are already 7 programs that I know of that are associate's degrees that do have data science. And if given a minute, I could probably tell you what I could find those for you. But the difference is there are unique challenges to 2-year degrees. And so some of those things come out, but there was recently a 2-year data science degree forum that was funded by the NSF. And so they came out with 7 recommendations for community colleges and how to start programs. And so those recommendations mirrored in some ways the envisioning data science just for generally 4-year undergraduate degrees, but they had some specific other recommendations that were more in line with how community colleges have to do accreditation. Also how they think through the idea of if people want to transfer to 4-year degrees in data science, and if there's a place for direct jobs out of an associate's degree, and what that place is. Where does that come in? Some employers may be interested in connections, like direct connections into the curriculum, or they may want to sponsor, students to complete a 4-year degree, or they may act more vocational and technical. So there's a lot of different methods. But there's definitely an ecosystem and people interested in the community college level, because there's so many students that go through the community college system. And those students need pathways into this field.
For sure. Awesome. So another question, do you think that integrating industry certifications, for example, IBM, SAS, CompTIA, et cetera, into data science programs can help set apart students looking for jobs when they leave programs?
So I have, and this is my own opinion, I have a mixed feeling. I feel that yes, there are some programs that are excellently done, that are industry programs that even have a strong base of curriculum because of the fact that they deal with real-time problems all the time. So that's, I think, is an augmentation. I would definitely agree. Alone, I sometimes feel like it becomes a little bit of competition around industry. So if you were to get the IBM certification and then want to work, for NVIDIA or something that has their own, then there's a competition of like, is the university endorsing one type of learning over the other? But I do think that if students were interested in going into, say, other types of fields that aren't tech or finance, that those make a huge difference, because they have the name recognition and the brand recognition of your university, as well as the brand recognition of a major company known for tech. So that can't hurt them. So if they wanted to work for a major hospital or a manufacturer, then that's something that would do nothing but boost. It's only if they want to, work for a direct competitor or if if it's seen as the university, kind of endorsing one way over the other, that's the only caveat I have with it. But I do think it's beneficial to students. Mm-hmm.
Okay, excellent. And then let's see. Could you speak? Another one came in. Let's see. Hold on. Okay. Could you speak about the quality of the data science programs and any issues or concerns you might have going forward?
Right. So I would say the quality, you have to evaluate it, from a distance. I haven't gone in and done a deep study of each program, but I have encountered a lot of their program leaders and talked to them through it. And what I see is, by and large, people try to do a really good job with the programs. The quality issues, or just the only issues I do see, is sometimes not all of those things that were deemed important. A lot of people leave out the ethics. A lot of people leave out that direct connection to real world data. Sometimes it's very, very theoretical, but data science is as much a practice as a theory. So it has both elements to it. And then the only other way that I can see it where it doesn't quite round out as a fully rounded out program is when it's just sort of arbitrarily tacked onto another department, not really thought through about what are the real differences from the home department. So it's really essentially a statistics degree, but it's got the label data science and, I don't know, maybe a capstone project. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it just isn't really encompassing of the full breadth that could be done. So not to say that those things are bad, but that's the only kind of real things that might be a caveat that I would see. And then talking through where it ends up in the different departments. I think in my experience of talking to a lot of different places that do it different ways, I can see the pros and cons of all of these different approaches, but sometimes there's a blind spot to the approach that's taken, and you see the pros of it, but you may not see, okay, well, this is some gaps that could happen just by basis that you had to make a choice. You can't choose to do everything, but sometimes in those choices, there are innate assumptions that happen.
Yeah, if only we could do everything.
Right.
It kind of leads into the next question, though. So given the challenges in math or STEM education that we've had for a long time, how do you see data science being different this time? Since data science is a combination of math, statistics, and computer science at a minimum, and obviously it's harder than a single STEM field, how are we going to combat the challenges?
Yeah, so that is a great question because it's one that's bigger and also smaller than all of us. In one way, it's bigger because it's just asking, how do we reform education, which I think is a huge topic, but also specifically for data science. I think one of the things that makes it smaller, and it gives me some hope that it could be done, is because of this deeply connected nature, where it's not fully presented as a theory only, as sometimes math classes can be, or even stats classes can be, or even databases for computer science. You have a direct mechanism to reach students and interest them by directly going to their interests. So I think instead of presenting data science only as you will learn data science, you could say, what are you interested in? I'm interested in pop music or something, and say, great. Is there a data set about the latest pop music? Can you pull it down? Can we analyze it? Do you know these tools? You can figure out how many followers such and such has or doesn't, or I'm interested in sports. There's sports analytics, they're interested in whatever. So it allows you to take the science, the teaching to the interest, if it, willing, that requires some work because every student will be different. You can try and generalize, and that's why I say there's some things that need to deal with instructor burden and some resources sharing. That's why the networking would be good, to share some resources so that each teacher or instructor isn't the full onus on you to create all of these materials from scratch, so that you can start to do that. And I think that's one way where data science could be different than the traditional, learn more STEM path, even though I think we should learn more STEM. So, yeah.
Yep, always. Okay. So I think we might be at an end to our questions. The chat is out and I don't see any raised hands. So I think, do you have any last words that you'd like to leave us with?
Sure. I mean, I would love to see if people are actually designing programs or interested to reach out and see what we could do together. Also to apply for the programs, if especially faculty or any research scientists, graduate students, or anything that are interested in doing work with government or industry for PEPI. I think there's a lot of opportunity and a lot of people, there's a lot of excitement, sort of breathless excitement in data science. And some of it is very practical and some of it is not. But I think that there's definitely a role for community in just those that are trying to do education in this space. So I would encourage people to reach out or to check out some of the things that are happening in the different forums or larger ecosystem, not just the hub, but just in general. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. And we did get one hand raised. So Rajiv, I think you should be able to talk now.
Hi, I have a question regarding, are there any programs you know about to get high school students interested, or maybe some internships they can do to kind of expose them to what this field is?
Mm-hmm.
Especially like people who are in the 11th grade, they have taken AP statistics and all that. So they have some base and then get them interested.
Yeah, so I will have to be honest, I haven't done as much work on K-12, so I don't know as many programs. I do know more programs, ironically, for those that are interested in kind of getting people engaged at the middle school, high school level. So these are groups like, there's a woman who does STEM Gems, just for women, little girls, giving girls role models in STEM. There's Black Girls Code, who is for Black girls who are interested in coding, and they do data science now. I don't know about a specific program that is national in scope that deals with high school students. There are one-offs where, there'll be a university that has a data science program and they'll have a high school outreach day, or there'll be an industry partner who wants to have not only undergraduate interns, they want to have high schoolers and act as a mentor and give a mentorship. So actually Stanley Black & Decker did that, but it's very localized. So I think some of these efforts are localized. There's also a group in Florida who is doing cloud-based data science curriculum for sixth graders, so that basically they can log onto a website, look at the play around with some of the code and do some of data analytics, very simple. And they have funding through University of Central Florida for that. But it's not built. The ecosystem is being built. We're flying this plane as it's being built. So there's not a pipeline yet, as it should be, that is recognizable or national or scaled. So. Mm-hmm.
I mean, I would be very interested if there's anything like that to contribute to that. Especially for high school students who are like rising seniors, so that so people who have taken at least algebra 2 and statistics, if high school students who have taken those, how to kind of build a program with AP computer science, AP statistics, kind of, because I like your idea of what's your interest. And a lot of high school students are interested in many, many things as they're trying different clubs and whatnot, whether it's music, whether it's sports.
Yeah.
It's just that if we put them together, I think we can get a lot of people interested early on.
Yeah, well, definitely reach out, because we do have an idea of working groups through the hubs, and those are led by people in the community who want to work on these different areas. So what we basically do is let people raise their hand and decide they want to work on a particular issue, and we just try and help you with recruiting other people or getting advertising your group, giving you access to things like this where you can have a Zoom call with people to try and look at how you might start those programs. So if it's something you're really interested in and you want to champion it, you can reach out to me and we can look at that too.
Oh, awesome. Okay, I will contact you offline then. Okay.
All right.
All right, thank you.
Mhm.
Awesome. Yeah. And I think that, I think that the idea of championing, like, that's how a lot of this work is getting done, as you were saying earlier. And so excited people are people we love connecting with. And I will say, this webinar is recorded and it will be up on the NCDS website. And of course, we'll share it with the South Hub, and they might want to put it up on their website too. But everybody who's here today, or anyone who signed up and couldn't make it, will also get an email probably in about a week. And I can put some of the resources that you've mentioned in this call, Renata, some of the different reports that people might be interested in that email, and also, of course, your contact information, so we can keep the connections going.
Sounds good.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think we'll close it for today. Thank you so much, Renata, and for everybody online. I think it's been a really great conversation.
All right. Thank you, Stephanie.
All right.
A pleasure.
Yeah. Take care, everyone. Have a good day.